the different.
Elohim and Yahweh and Adam.
Right.
I want to talk about the Adam, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have talked about how it is impossible to be separated.
Okay.
And I think I understand that. How to show you. I believe, let me lay my little premises here. I believe that the whole concept of creation taking place during a 6-day period is a metaphor. I do not believe that the numbers have anything to do with the days of the week. I believe that the reason 7 became a natural number of completion and 7 became the way we numbered the days in the week. I believe it came that way because of what we ended up being in terms of a natural man. Can you see that?
Yes.
I believe that we took spiritual concepts and naturalized them or materialized them, and I believe the we who did that was not the natural man. I believe it was the hidden Aleph, the spirituality that's buried deep inside of us that caused that to take place, so that there would be a residual effect of what these concepts really mean. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
So when I say that I believe that the 7 represents a metaphor of what was created, I believe that the numbers in themselves are indicative of the energy or the enlightenment for each of those concepts that were brought into being, like the first day, second day, etc. Those are energies, and they represent the letters. Like the 1 is Aleph, and 2 is Bet, and 3 is Gimel, and 4 is Dalet, etc. Okay, that's what I believe. Now, one of the things that moves me into that direction is because the word for day is young, and it has as its root energy or light. Now, having said that, if indeed this thing that I'm putting forth is true, and I believe it is, then everything that came into being at one time. There was no time,
Right.
there was no space, so there's no measure of length. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
There's no measure of length in terms of how long it took. I believe that it took place in what is termed in the scriptures in the New Testament when we talk about being changed in the twinkling of an eye.
Uh-huh.
I believe that everything came into being in the twinkling of an eye. And when I say everything, I mean everything. I believe that Yahweh, Elohim, Adam, Garden of Eden, the planets, the natural earth, everything burst forth at once.
Yeah.
That's what I believe. Boom, there it is. That's what I believe happened.
Yeah.
I believe that it happened that way because if you look at, now that I laid the foundation, let me see if I can prove it. Okay. If you look at the beginning of creation, you will see, I'm just going to get my Bible and look at Genesis and pull some things out of it. If you look at it, these are some of the things that will become obvious to you. When you look at the first verse in Genesis, right? This is what I believe.
What chapter?
First verse, first Genesis, first chapter, first verse, first chapter, the beginning.
I missed it.
Okay. I forgive you this time. Don't try that no more. Okay. All right. This is what I'm saying. I believe it is hidden in Bereshit bara Elohim, began and created Elohim.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it's hidden right there. That's why I believe everything came into being, and that's why I believe that it came chaotic, but order came at the same time.
How can that be?
How can it be? This is what I believe. That if this itself is beginning, right?
Mm-hmm.
I believe that everything burst forth out of the beginning, and as it burst forth, that's the chaotic part. And the further away it got, the more shape it took in terms of order. Can you see that? That there are 10,000 different things out here, right? Let's say that there are houses and cars and boats,
mm-hmm.
and clothes and shoes and teeth. But you can't distinguish what's in here.
Okay.
But the further out it gets, it separates from each other. Now you can see the house. You can see the boat. You can see the shoe. You can see the teeth. You see what I'm talking about?
It's just hard for me to grasp it happening in that.
Spontaneously.
Yes.
But am I correct in teaching that the time was something just for man? It wasn't
Right.
for, so it can be possible.
So
Yeah,
this is what that's where time came from. When things began to order themselves, that's where time came. Because it slowed down. Am I making sense? Hello? Okay. It's important that you see this because of where I'm going next. Go ahead.
So if everything occurred at one time and time wasn't really necessary, so the need for the numbers was just to give all the energy to bring that forth?
Yes. This is it. All of the letters and numbers were with Esau from the beginning. And when Esau decided to constrict himself in order to bring about creation, that is when the letters and numbers began to come into an order of energy in order to bring creation into being. For example, when you look at Aleph Bet, Aleph is the first number, right? Bet is the second number. If you look at Aleph, it is the unbridled energy, pulsating energy of light. It is light and it is life. Bet represents a house or container. So Aleph is projected through Bet. Those are the letters, right? Now, you can take Aleph Bet spells Father. So everything comes from the Father. Can you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the energy there is necessary. I'm going to give you a classic one, then I'm going to back up a little bit, okay? If we look at, what is it? Okay, let's look at this. Let's look at Aleph Bet, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let's look at Aleph Mem, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is mother. This is father. Got it?
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's look at, well, I'm not doing these letters justice. Aleph, Dalet, Mem. That is Adam.
Okay.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, when man, quote unquote, failed, right?
Uh-huh.
It means that he began to view himself as being separated from God.
Right.
Okay? So, when you take the Aleph away from Adam, right? You have Dam,
Uh-huh.
which spells in the Hebrew blood.
Okay.
The numerical value of the Aleph is 4. The numerical value of Mem is 40. The numerical value of Aleph is 1. Of Bet is 2. Of Mem is 40. This is 41. This is 3. This is 44. Right?
Yeah.
Father, mother equals 44. The natural blood equals 44.
Okay.
So that's the numeric. That's what I'm talking about, the numerical energy. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Hey, girl. That's why you don't understand.
I know.
But that's what I'm talking about when I talk about gematria or the numerical values.
Yeah.
It points to meanings. Now, what happened is it takes a father and a mother to bring about a natural birth.
Correct.
But it is the Aleph that that actually brings the spiritual.
So that's how we
Gives the
get.
spiritual.
That's how we get the
Life.
divine
This is life.
parent.
Yes.
The divine, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
This Aleph is the source of life.
Right.
So what happens is the reason you cannot be separated is because without Aleph, without the energy of life, you just exist. And man has been through that state. And he breathed the breath into his nostrils and he became a living soul.
Uh-huh.
If he was not living, he was not a living soul prior to, he was existing. So there's a difference between existence and living or life. So he was existing, but he was not living. And when you minimize the spiritual, when you minimize the creator, when you minimize the source of all life in your life by virtue of not seeking it or not seeking to become aware of it, then you are existing, you're not living. For the life of the flesh is in the blood.
Right.
So what life is in the blood? The Aleph is in the blood. The air that we breathe flows through what? The natural blood.
Right.
When you separate that out, what takes place? Death.
Right.
So what I'm saying is that all of these spiritual truths that were there in the beginning, we brought them, they were brought with us into the natural for the purpose of our not forgetting where we came from and who we are. And though we have been confused about it, we have always had some semblance of it.
Okay.
Because we always talk about spiritual, we talk about soul, we talk about God, we talk about being created, we talk about life itself, but we don't understand what it actually means.
Right.
So when we look at it from this perspective, we begin to see a truth taking place, a truth developing. And the truth that we began to see developing is that it is impossible for us to be separated from Elohim. Because the Aleph represents Elohim, or it is Elohim. So it is impossible for us to be separated from Elohim. And though we were created in the image or in the shadow or with the characteristics of Elohim, one of the characteristics that we had also was free will. And in exercise that free will, by choosing not to recognize the Creator, we began to minimize the Aleph, the Elohim, that who we are.
Right.
And if you look at it, let's get forward to the place where it says that, and he breathed the breath of life in him, and he became a living soul.
Mm-hmm.
And then he said, name the animals, didn't he? Chapter 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then he said, name the animals?
Yes, sir.
Right before,
He placed him in the garden,
Mm-hmm.
and all that stuff was done, right?
right before he took his rib.
Right before he took his rib for that woman, right?
Yeah.
Well, there ain't no rib, but we gonna say it.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to find the verse that's in.
Which one?
Okay, the rib thing.
The rib
Verse
thing,
22.
Verse 22.
On
Yeah.
chapter
Yeah.
3.
But now he go through all this stuff in the garden, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he the man named all the creatures, right?
Mhm.
Right.
But it only come after he said, I will make him a helper suitable for him. See that?
Yes.
Then he begins to name the creatures. You know what I believe happened?
What?
She sound like the folk at church dancing folk, right? Come on, preacher. Come on, preacher. This is what I believe happened. I believe, we talk about these animals represent our thoughts.
Right.
I believe that the Adam searched his thoughts and found no thought that represented who he truly is. He could not come to grips with what he had become. Neither could he find who he truly is. And that's what put him into the deep sleep. That's what put him into a deep conscious level that was different than the consciousness that he was accustomed to. Am I making sense?
Yes.
That's what I believe. His contemplation did that, and this is what gave him the sense of helped him to see rather that there was more to him than what he anticipated being to him. And what I mean by that is that's when he began to see that he was male and female energy. When someone say, you know what, you need to think about who you are. And you begin to see that you're more than what you thought you were, loving yourself.
Mm-hmm.
He began to see that he was male and female energy. And when he saw that, rather than seeing it as a room with furniture, he saw it as two separate rooms partitioned by a wall. He saw the female as being separate from him. Got it?
Yeah.
But he saw it for a selfish reason. For this cause shall a man. You see?
Yeah.
So he saw it from a selfish perspective. And because he saw it from a selfish perspective, that is when all this other, give me a tissue please. That's when all this other stuff began to take place in terms of the serpent stuff. You got me?
Yeah.
So that's when all this other stuff began to take place because of what he saw. He saw it as being separate, but he saw it for a selfish reason. And what he actually saw was, what he actually saw, and I'm not going to draw the letters because it takes too much time, and I ain't doing it right now. What he actually saw was Aleph, Yud, Shin. And he saw Aleph, Shin, well, S-E-E-N would be better. Mem. Not Mem, I'm sorry. Hey. That's what he saw. Of course, this way, right? This is Ish. This is Isha. That's what he saw. The feminine energies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, when he saw them separately, something happened. At that point, there was an opportunity to accept who he was in terms of Elohim, Adam being in the image of Elohim, right?
Mm-hmm.
That Elohim, because when you say Aleph, Dalet, Mem, you're talking about Adam, you're talking about Elohim, you're talking about Elohim being spiritual. But when I see Adam, I see the spiritual and the physical all at once coming into being because of the Dalet Mem, the blood. Am I making sense so far?
Mem is the blood?
Dalet Mem, spells
Dalet
blood.
Mem,
Yeah.
okay.
Because of the blood. I see that as being one happening.
Okay.
And I see this meaning the Ish and the Isha being all of this around this, that's the Adam. Can you see
Makes
that?
sense, yeah.
That's the Adam. But the energies in the Adam is the energy of Aleph. See that?
Yeah.
The energy of you, which is spirituality. The energy of Hay, which is life, or it is state of being, or yeah. So what I'm saying is that if you take either one of these out, what you have is Aleph Sheen. See that?
Yeah.
Which is cosmic fire, which is the energy of fire. So what happens is the Yud and the Hay is what allows the energy of these two entities to function the way they are supposed to. They complement each other. They complement each other.
Gotcha.
Neither one of them is dominant over the other because the Aleph is dominant over all of it.
Okay.
The spiritual being is the spiritual presence or the Holy One is dominant over all of it. So when he did it for selfish reason, when you study the letter Aleph, this is what you find out. The one who desires to receive for the purpose of giving is the one who manifests the energy of Aleph or can see the light of Aleph. But the one who, the container who receives for the sake of keeping it or for selfish reasons, the Aleph hides itself from them. So the light of Aleph is not revealed. So when he did this for selfish reasons, the Aleph hid itself. And that is what created the enmity. Because what you had when the Aleph hid itself, you had an incompletion here. The total man was not there, right?
Right.
But the Aleph actually was hidden from him, but it was still in play. And what he lost was the Yud and the Hay, and all he had left was fire, the cosmic fire. And that is the volatility between a man and a woman to this day. Uncontrolled emotions.
Wow.
Am I making sense?
Yes.
Very dangerous.
Very dangerous. Why do you think it's dangerous?
I don't know, hot grits, burning beds, that kind of stuff.
Oh, you're so crazy. I know some gay coke. But you see the volatility there.
Yes.
So that is the reason the volatility is there. Because we, to this day, do not recognize ourselves as being one. Yeah.
So
I mean, she raised her hand. She's been all this talking. Now she raised her hand.
the Yud was dormant or is dormant?
Yeah. What happens for selfish reason is dormant because he chooses to make it dormant.
The entity does, or it?
Yes, the
okay.
entity does.
Okay.
See, Yud manifests Aleph.
Okay.
And if you are selfish, the Aleph hides itself. The light is not revealed. So he chooses not to accept Yud. Yud is the protector of all, of everything.
Okay.
So when you start looking at the masculine side, you can't look at it without going all the way back to Aleph Bet, which is father,
Okay.
which is masculine. Then when you look at Aleph Mem, which is mother, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then Mem spells water. Mem is represented by water. Where's the baby mature? In the womb.
No.
In the water.
Yeah.
So all of this stuff is connected. So my point is that no matter how hard we try to remove ourselves from the divine, it is not virtually impossible, it is totally impossible to do that. We cannot separate ourselves from the divine. And Paul said, no one can separate me from the love of Elohim. Meaning, and then he went through a list of things, right?
Yeah.
All he was saying was, there is absolutely nothing that you can conceive that can separate you, that can sever the ties between you and Elohim. You can believe that it does, you can act like that it does, but that does not mean that it happened. You do not have to act like a Mitchell. You don't have to act like a Mitchell. You can act like whatever you want to act like, but you're still a Mitchell.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Does that make sense?
To me, it
Yeah.
does.
It don't matter. You still one of y'all. Yeah. So when we look at it from that perspective, it is an impossibility for that separation to take place. Now, let me give you one greater than that, or equal, well, yeah, greater than that. It is impossible for the Yahweh to be separated from the Elohim. It's impossible. And it is also shown to be impossible. It will happen when I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, stay up all night.
You had any coffee?
Huh?
You had any coffee?
No. Oh, you're talking about this morning? Oh, yeah, I had my other coffee this morning. This is the thing. If you take if you take Yahweh, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Aleph. Okay? Right?
Right.
This is made up of Yud, Tav, Yud. And what I'm saying is that that's a Tav, that's a Yud. See what I'm talking about? One at the top, one at the bottom. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Now, this is Yud, Hey, I'm sorry. That's the Hey. Hey, Vav, Hey. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is the numeric value is 10. Okay, and this is 5, 6, 10. That's the numeric value,
Mm-hmm.
which is 26.
Mm-hmm.
26. So it is through the gematria that you see the connection, the inseparable connection between Elohim and Yahweh. Now, what have I said to you today? If there is an inseparable connection between Yahweh and Elohim, and you saw the inseparable connection between Elohim and Adam, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you saw the inseparable connection between Ish and Isha, right? Which means that there is a continuum that connects everything. So when we talk about the Father and I are one,
Mm-hmm.
that's because it's not you becoming one. It's you becoming aware that you're one. And the reason it says that we are one is because everything comes from Aleph. Can you see that?
Yes.
All energy flows from the first letter, and it just spreads out exponentially.
And what does hay means again?
Hey, life.
Represents?
Oh, it represents life. It represents state of being. And you is spirituality, and hey is state of being. Or, yeah. It projects. It projects life. Like when Abraham was changed from Abram to Abraham,
Mm-hmm.
it was the hay that was put in his name, and it was spiritual life that flowed to him, and he began to see his journey clearly. Same thing with Sarah, hay was added to her name. So that added to the spiritual journey. And if you look, open his eyes to the journey, or their eyes to what was to come. And if you look at this from a perspective of the continuum, Esau, Yahweh, Elohim, Adam. See?
Yeah.
Can you see the connection there?
Yeah.
Now, the other thing is this. If you really wanted to see how powerful this is,
Mm-hmm.
the only language that I know of that is directly connected to everything that is this language. Because if you, well, I was talking to Ron today. What did I tell him? Water. Mem, Yud, Mem. Right? That's water. This is water. That's H2O. Isn't it? You see two hydrogens that surrounds the oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
You see two mems that surrounds the U. Huh?
Yeah.
The spiritual in both. You see?
Yeah.
Another one is, if you look at Emet, Aleph, Mem, Tav. Okay. Aleph, Mem, Tav. Right? Truth. Take this away. It's death.
Yeah. Ooh.
Take truth. See? Take the olive out of
Yeah.
truth.
It's
It's
death.
death.
Wow.
That's the danger in religion.
That's where my mind went.
That's the danger in it.
Wow.
You see how powerful that is?
Ooh.
So concluded, I must say that if you don't push yourself to understand the linguistic structure, you don't have to speak the language.
Okay.
If you understand the linguistic structure, then you begin to understand what's in the book. You begin to see what's in the book. You begin to see that the serpent, it says that the serpent crawled on the earth, didn't it?
Yeah.
You begin to see that the serpent is a metaphor for what it came from. The serpent, when the dude began to create all these animals, right?
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't mention the serpent, does he?
No.
So where does the serpent come from? It comes from earth consciousness. That's where it comes from. So the serpent is not something crawling on the ground. The serpent is representative of the energy of earth consciousness. Are you following me?
Mm-hmm.
And if it's representative of the energy of earth consciousness, then that means that the serpent is representative of the light of the earth, or the energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or the fire. So what happened with Ish in the garden, or Isha rather, what happened is that the earth fire became intermingled with the heavenly fire. And her leanings was toward the earth consciousness as opposed to the consciousness of the heavenly or the light. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Which means that idolatry was committed. Because she surrendered to. Worship means, you see?
Yeah.
Idol worship was committed because she surrendered to the earthly consciousness. And when I say she, I don't mean separately she.
Right.
I mean that he allowed the feminine side to nurture this consciousness, and it eventually overtook him as well, the masculine as well, because it was being nurtured by the feminine. Am I making sense?
So is that why the feminine energy has been suppressed? Because of what took place?
For two reasons. One, because the feminine has always been blamed for something that had to take place, and that the woman, it's not saying a woman did it,
Right.
but that's how it's been interpreted.
Portrayed,
Yeah. And the other thing is that it's been suppressed because the masculine energy took dominance as opposed to allowing the two to mesh and become one. You know, in terms of intermingling, it's all about how he perceived it. He perceived it as being separate as opposed to being a complement.
Two things, and I don't know if the first thought has anything.
Yeah.
He dealt with naming the animals before the woman, right?
Yes.
Is there anything to that? I mean, if he was so focused on those different, I mean, those were those types of earth consciousness, the animals?
He made them earth consciousness.
Okay.
It was a focus, a concentration, a meditation on his thoughts.
Okay.
See,
That makes sense. I was wondering if that had anything to do with
I think I made a note concerning something like that.
Ishah's willingness to engage the serpent.
Okay. He it is Yud that projects Aleph into the physical.
Okay.
The energy it brings that into the physical. So it was his focus on those thoughts, and the focus on the thoughts did what? He came to the conclusion that there's nothing in me that represents me. He didn't see that with those thoughts. And then he went into that state of consciousness that he had never been in before, and that's when he recognized the feminine energy, because he was in search of it. And if you notice, it comes in between the two. Now, this is the other thing. Those animals that he saw, that he named, none of them have to learn anything to live. None of them. Every animal that's born comes to this earth able to eat, to stabilize itself.
Yeah.
That's true.
But every man that's born in this earth has to learn. So what does that mean? It means that every man has to learn who he is. He does not function from instinct. Animal instinct separates us from the animal. When we begin to operate by instinct, we lower ourselves to the base thoughts, the earth consciousness. We are better than that. And I don't mean, when I say better than that, I mean the opportunity for us to elevate ourselves through the search of Torah and hiding it in our hearts is what separates us. The word heart is lamed bet. And the Torah begins with bet and ends with lamed. So in between lamed and bet is the Torah.
Okay.
So if you if you recall the Torah studies from back through, and if you recall what you've studied, that in itself hides the Torah or makes you aware of what Torah is, and it changes your heart.
I was thinking about how dangerous now it is to really entertain a thought, because that's isn't that the same? The principle was the same.
The principle.
How Adam created the animals and whatever.
That's how we create our environment. Think about it. Our thoughts are manifested in our actions or in our words. And when thoughts are manifested in action or words, they allow you to manifest them to others. Because others see how you act or they hear what you say.
Right.
So it is very dangerous, but at the same time, it can also be very enlightening. It just depends on how you choose to manifest it. If my desire is to learn all that I can for the sake of teaching others, then my actions and my words will be reflective of the light of Aleph.
Okay.
Which it means that I am speaking truth. Aleph, Mem, Tav. But if it's for the reason of speaking, of just knowing, just for the knowledge of knowing, then Aleph is not projected, the light is not projected through my actions or my words. Death is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And death is not what we think it is. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Death is what's projected. Now, in order for us to get to where we're supposed to be, then this stuff is rolling.
Let's go.
In order for us to get to where we're supposed to be,
Uh-huh.
we have to believe existence and go to death, life. Now, without the Aleph, without realizing, without being aware that we are Elohim, right?
Mm-hmm.
We are just existing, right?
Oh,
Pause for station break.
Go to the green screen. We are, I'll put it back up there. We are existing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, in order for us to become aware of who we really are, right?
Mm-hmm.
We must die to the thoughts, actions, and words that has rendered us the state of just existing, selfishness. Can you see that?
Yeah.
We must die to selfishness. And when we die to selfishness, then we begin to live because the light of Aleph begins to reveal itself. The light of Elohim begins to reveal itself. And the light of Elohim is something that you see but you don't see. The light of Elohim is not seen. It is experienced. You know how you say that someone glows?
Mm-hmm.
What are you actually seeing? You don't know, do you?
Right.
You see? It's seen but not seen. That's what I'm talking about.
Well, I was thinking about death. Death is separateness. Isn't it? Your perception of being separated.
Death is selfishness.
Okay. But it.
See, selfishness is what causes you to follow the journey of believing you're separate.
Right. That's what I was
Selfishness
trying to
does
say.
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when we get beyond selfishness, then we begin to see the reality of who we are. It has to die. See, what do we call living the life? Depends on how much money we got.
Yeah.
How we're able to do what we want to do materially, right?
Yeah.
That's what we call living the life.
Right.
So we have created this sense of living the life, and honestly, if we aren't careful, we'll find out that this desire to live the life renders us wicked. Because the idea is wickedness in the Hebrew, right, is ayin, shin, resh. Reverse it and do ayin, shin, resh. I'm sorry, it is resh, shin, ayin. That's wickedness. Ayin, shin, resh as well. Wickedness, if you reverse the word, if you reverse wealth, it becomes wicked. So if you don't have the right attitude about possessions, about materialism, about wealth, it renders you to become wicked, either to receive it, to hold on to it, or to desire it at any cost.
Is that why Abraham would not accept
Yes.
the wealth or money or whatever
Yeah.
from that king?
Yeah. It's Abimelech.
Abimelech,
Yeah.
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 Okay,
Not even the shoelace will I accept you unless you say you made me wealthy.
right.
Yes.
Wow.
So am I making sense?
Yes.
So when we have these thoughts, we have to begin to look beyond the thought and see what the consequences of these thoughts are.
Yeah.
And when we began to deal with the consequences of our thoughts, that is what began to order us. That began to allow the footsteps of the righteous to be ordered by Yahweh. You see?
Yeah.
Your journey is what it's talking about. This is not you going from here to Hopkins, walking. That's not what it's talking about. It's talking about your steps along your spiritual journey. That's what it's talking about. Now, when they are ordered, you will be guided in different directions to learn. So for the purpose of what? Teaching. When there is a word teach. Aleph, Lamed, Pay. Aleph, Lamed represents teaching. Pay is the mouth. Aleph teaches the mouth. Now, if it's Aleph, Lamed, Pay, it is negation. It is negative.
Negation?
Negation. Negative.
Negation, okay.
Now, this is what I'm saying to you. You must allow Aleph to teach the mouth so that your thoughts and your words will be pure. And when you allow Aleph to teach the mouth, then, and Aleph, your brain represents Aleph, by the way. If you allow Aleph to teach the mouth, then it will come a time when the mouth will begin to teach Aleph. This is what I mean by that. When you allow Aleph to teach the mouth, you will think the right thing, you will speak the right thing, you will have the right actions.
Okay.
When you do that to a point where you begin to see who you are and accept who you are, now the Aleph that you are begins to teach those things that are in your mind that don't line up with Aleph. You see what I'm talking about? So it's a two-way street.
It's just hard to fathom us teaching
Allah.
Allah.
Elohim.
Okay.
In order for you to be aware of who you are, you got to teach yourself to get rid of some of that stuff.
Yes.
But before that happens, it is Elohim who shows you that you're not really aware of who you are. So that's what teaching.
Yes.
So that's how it works.
Wow.
So I know I've said or I am saying a lot of stuff, But it's the only way I know how to get us to a place of appreciation, not only for who we are, but for what the scriptures are teaching us about who we are. Everything that I have said, everything that I have said is in better sheet beginning. Every bit of it. And you say, but where is the olive? The olive is not revealed. It's there. But it is not, the light is not revealed until the selfishness is dealt with. There has to be a desire to receive for the purpose of giving, and that's when the light shows itself to everything in beginning. But beginning is projecting it.
Now I see why it's hard for some of us to not love ourselves, is because we don't know who we are.
Right. The reason a person finds it difficult to love themselves is because they have accepted everybody's thoughts about who they are except the thoughts of the one who created them. I got two amen now.
But it's the truth.
Yeah,
And now
I mean, think
see
about what
that.
I'm saying to you.
Oh,
The reason we go through what we go through is because we accept that. Now, the reason we stay in this state of existence and the idea of separation is because, for the most part, we are comfortable. We like where we are,
For the most part.
for the most part.
Because no one is ever truly comfortable in that state.
But and even when they are not, we convince ourselves that we are.
so that's the negative pleasure.
Right. And that is the continuous seeking. Because if you look at the word for pleasure, and if you reverse it, it spells disease. The same letters that spell pleasure spell disease. So if you don't find your pleasure in eating, or in, you see,
Yeah.
then you are diseased. Disease.
So that's how the disease has been manifested.
Yes.
Because of the negative pleasure we've created.
And the word was sent for what? The healing of all flesh. So when you do it in the right manner, receive it and when I say right manner, I'm not talking about a set of rituals. I'm talking about a sense of desire.
Right.
Desire is strong. This morning when I came in, the driveway fixed. Last Saturday, Phoebe and I took her out there. I said, this is what I need to do. I got to fix this driveway. And I showed her what I needed to do. And she was talking about, so I said, no, we need to be over there. And we figured out where it needed to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I got here in the morning to fix it. I don't know who fixed it.
The city.
We thought
But I ain't calling.
I came up here last night.
You see what I'm talking about?
I was looking for the little thought.
When Mom and I left, we saw you and Miss Phoebe get out of the car, and I saw you pointing, and I looked at her and said, "It'll be fixed now." I just assumed you'd make it happen, and I guess you did, but not the way that. I was like, that'll be the end of it. Like, I just knew it when I saw you.
City for a whole year.
That's desire.
Wow.
See what I'm talking about?
Yes.
So desire is extremely powerful. So all you have to do is desire to become aware of who you are.
I was still right. I assumed you got it fixed, so I wasn't wrong.
Yeah, you know, you're right.
Okay, you feel better now since you got that out? Okay.
No. When I first drove up, because I saw him looking at it too when we first drove up, say, oh, he got it fixed. And he was looking at it last week, so I still was right.
That's your boy.
That's right.
So
Zip off the old block.
I don't deny it.
All day long, 24/7.
But are you seeing the picture developing here?
Yes. Yes.
So,
Ooh, boy.
so again, everything that is always was and shall be. When Solomon said, there is nothing new under the sun. Everything is, was, and ever shall be. Everything.
Wow.
We have taken what is and materialized it. The only thing that is temporal are the things that we create. The chair, the computer, the rug. You see what I'm talking about?
All's well.
Those things are temporal.
Right.
But everything that created us is eternal. Is, was, and ever shall be. Now, okay, Diane, go ahead. Because I might go in a new direction.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Now, everything is, was, and shall be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which says that if we did not become a living soul until breath was blown in our face, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then that breath that was blown in our face is eternal. It always was, is, and shall be, right?
Yes.
Which means then that we always was, is, and shall be. Because we are that breath.
Right.
Which means that if we are, and was, and ever shall be. Yeah. Okay, if we all of that, right?
Uh-huh.
Now listen to this. How is it then that we can be that and not be Elohim? And if we are indeed Elohim, and the scriptures verifies this, how is it that Elohim sends himself to hell? The hell that we talk about in church.
That's the existence you're talking about?
No.
No?
No, I'm talking about the hell that you
The hell.
raised up being scared of.
Oh.
It cannot exist. David says, no matter where I go, I can go to the deepest depths of Sheol. You're there. Did he not?
That's what he
The
said.
highest height. You're there. What is he saying? When I'm going through my hell of existence, Elohim is right there. Why is Elohim there? To pour me through it, to show me how to die to self so I can live.
I'm so glad you brought enlightenment on that. You know how many times I was told I'm going to bust hell wide open?
Me too.
We all were taught.
Can you see that?
Yes. Yes.
So he's always there to bring us through. He doesn't bring us through by grabbing our hand and saying, come on, let's walk through here. No, he brings us through by bringing to remembrance who we are. As oft as you may do this in remembrance of who we are. What is he talking about? Bread. It's the sustenance of life, is it not?
Yes.
Wine is the sustenance of life. Wine represents spiritual life because the life is in the blood, and the bread represents the material. Though you are material, you are also spiritual. Don't forget that. Do this as often as you may. You see?
Yes.
Am I making sense? So all of these things that we have been involved with are real, but but not real in the way they've been taught.
And that it was taught for control, manipulation.
Okay, not by the people who taught us. The ones who taught us actually thought they were right. Now, it was manipulated in order to frighten people into being a Catholic. instead of being a Christian.
Okay.
See, the idea of Christianity was prevalent prior to Catholicism.
Yeah.
And Catholicism took Christianity and made it what they wanted it to be, and that's what we practice today. I don't care whether you're Baptist, Methodist, or Presbyterian, you're still practicing Catholicism.
Yeah.
Basically, it was an attempt to co-opt Christianity. So that's why you had everything that really had the truth in it hidden, etc. Because 10 years before Constantine, I think it's Diocles or something like that, was the last person who persecuted Christians, on a large scale. So, okay, we have all these Christians. The only thing we're gonna do, we're gonna keep them, but now we're gonna twist it up a little bit and have them follow this way. And so then you only had a few people, pagans, etc., who were on the outskirts, who were still, and Coptic Christians who were really still. They were being heretics, basically.
They studied the scrolls.
Yes, and so they went totally against Catholicism. So they still were persecuted.
And when you look at it from that perspective, you begin to see something. Up until the early 60s, nobody in the Catholic Church read the Bible except the priest. There was a reason for that. You see?
Yeah.
Control. So I'm not upset because it was necessary in order to preserve. And if the gods that we created did not preserve it, it wouldn't have been preserved. Because they could have destroyed it. So they had to be co-opted by it so they would see it as being something religious and preserve it. You see?
Yeah.
So that's what preserved it. So
I was reading one of the guys in here, Meister Eckhart, and a lot of his stuff is actually in the Vatican. So it's funny they're still preserving it, even though they're not really letting it out.
Well, did they excommunicate him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was a heretic.
Yeah, heretic, yeah.
He was a mystic.
Because he
Christian
studied
mystic.
from the Aramaic. He studied the scripture from the Hebrew and Aramaic.
Christian mystic.
Yeah, I vaguely remember him.
Yeah, that's one of the guys I like most out of here. Him and I think the other one was Thomas A. Kempis.
Okay, I him.
Also German as well.
Yeah. So there is example after example in the scriptures that shows us that there has never been a time when we didn't exist. Ever. Because if there was a time that we did not exist, there's a time when Elohim did not exist. And if there's a time when Elohim did not exist, there's a time when Yahweh did not exist. And if there's a time when Yahweh did not exist, there's a time when Ein Sof did not exist. And that's not it. It's just not that yet. So, any questions?
Can we go back to, you said the reason why Adam didn't create the serpent?
Yeah.
Because I'm reading, it says, and out of the ground. Okay, it says, and out of the ground the Lord God formed.
Where are you?
I'm sorry.
Oh, I see. 19.
Yeah,
Formed
chapter
every
2,
beast,
verse 19.
Yeah.
Out of the ground the Lord God formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air and brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them. And whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof.
Mm-hmm.
And you said he didn't name the snake, or the snake?
No, I'm saying that the snake was not mentioned right there. The serpent was not mentioned there. These creatures represent thoughts.
Right.
And the serpent represent thought.
Okay.
Earth consciousness. Get the snake out of your head. Because,
okay.
India, Mandalini, the snake that comes from the Kundalini. The Kundalini,
Mm-hmm.
the idea of the serpent coming from the genitals and climbing up the spine. That's a mystic's view of what happened also.
Okay,
but it's not supposed to be taken literally. Okay?
all right.
This, you got to get the snake out of your head. It's energy. Everything is energy. Everything is light. Everything is light. There is absolutely nothing that's not light. Even the skin is light. Listen to this. And Jesus was hung on the cross, right?
Uh-huh.
Prior to them hanging him on the cross, they took his garments, didn't they?
Yes,
And he was completely nude.
yes.
Then they wrapped him in linen and put him in a tomb. When he was resurrected, the clothes that they wrapped him in was neatly folded where his head lay.
Mm-hmm.
Were they not?
Right,
Which means that he was nude again.
okay.
But no one referenced his nudity when he came into their presence. Why? You see what I'm talking about? Why? Why is it no one recognizes nudity? Were, mentioned anything about it? If a naked man was walking through the streets of Jerusalem, somebody would have said something.
Yeah,
Because even to this day, as marvelous as we think we are, if a naked man walking down the street, somebody
Yeah, because they were searching for one a couple weeks
go
ago.
say something. You see where I'm coming from?
yeah.
Well, you know that dude at the airport.
Yeah.
Took off all his clothes.
No, they were searching for one.
No, I'm talking about dude at the airport going through the security. He took off every stitch he had on.
Was he protesting?
Yes.
Yeah,
Now, but you see what I'm saying? You see
Yeah.
my point?
yeah,
So why is it that nobody recognized that? Because the manifestation of his essence was light, and all they could see was light, but they didn't know what they saw. When you look in Janice's face and see that Janice is glowing, you don't see makeup, you don't see skin, you don't know what's making her glow.
that's true. And he's right, Janice. Yeah.
You do it in the morning, though.
But you just,
but you,
right.
you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So the skin itself, when I talked about what we did, the covering thing, right?
yeah,
If the skin itself came from the filling of all of these spiritual entities which are light, then the skin must be light also. It just condensed. It is confused light. Dark skin. It's condensed. So when it is material, when it is spiritualized, then it becomes as Jesus' skin or body was, and our body shall be made like it unto his own glorious body. Is that not what it says?
that's what it says.
That's the only I believe it is. But so that's what it's talking about. So when we look at these things like the fig leaves, we have to begin to see that they are metaphorical. And in actuality, the serpent did not, the earth consciousness, did not deceive the Esau. It didn't deceive her. She deceived herself. The deception started long before she came in contact with the serpent. The deception came when the Adam saw Ish and Esau as separate entities.
Yeah,
That's where the deception came.
yeah,
Rather than seeing it as a living room with a brown sofa and a green sofa. Both of them are sofas in the same room. And both of them serve the same purpose, and both of them are light, but they just different in terms of their color.
mm-hmm.
And they complement each other. Now, but he saw it as a brown sofa in this room with a wall here and a green sofa there. That's the separateness, you see?
Yeah,
So that's where the deception came. And that's where the deception still persists. And it persists to the point where I'm working on something. I'm trying to see something. I believe, here I go again. Every time I start with I believe, I start getting myself in trouble. I believe that the Esau that he recognized in the garden is different than the Eve that he named outside of the garden.
Say it again.
I believe the Esau
Mhm.
that he recognized in the garden is different than the Eve that he named outside of the womb of the garden. That's what I believe. I believe, here we go, Janice, that the Esau in the garden was Lilith. And the Eve, the Eva outside of the garden is the mother of all life, as he named it to be. That energy. Because whatever he named something to be, that's what it was. Is that not what it said?
Yeah.
Mhm.
The masculine energy did that, right?
Mhm.
That's why I believe, because it says that Adam, it does not say Ish and Eve. It says Adam and Eve,
Mhm.
doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I was wondering about what kind of dynamics had to be going on between the two of them for her to even entertain the serpent.
Well, even, okay, and when you look at it, you know, the intertwining with the earth energy, right? The selfishness. Selfishness is all about the appetite, desire. So that meant that at that point, the feminine took on something that the feminine should not have taken on. He allowed that to happen in himself. He developed an appetite for earth consciousness. And that is tantamount to Lilith being on top.
Yeah. Dominance.
Doing intercourse, dominance.
Yeah.
That the sages talk about that. You probably haven't read that, but that's one of the things the sages talk
Wait
about.
a minute, stop.
What?
Rewind. Rewind. Now, did it get play? Pick
The
up.
sages say
There you go.
that Lilith was on top doing intercourse.
Mm-hmm.
That's metaphorical also, meaning that she dominated him during the period of nurturing and birth. And outside of the garden, I believe that it was Eve who was on the bottom doing intercourse, not being dominated, but in the place where she was created to be. And that's what brought about the life.
Gotcha.
And I'm developing that. I'm not, ready to dive into it yet, but I'm developing that. That's what I believe. And I believe that is one of the reasons the archaeologists have found that everybody on earth came from two wombs and one man. I believe it's indicative of Lilith and Eve.
Got to be.
That's what I believe.
Got to be. Wow.
And I feel it. I sense it. It's extremely, it's a deep truth that needs to be explored. So the question, so what happens is, either you're going to manifest the energy of Lilith or the energy of Eve. And the manifestation of the energy of Lilith and the energy of Eve is not a physical intercourse thing as much as it is a dominance as opposed to a complement. Am I making sense?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Because I'm thinking about how we as women try, or anybody in general try to make a person be something that they're not. Never mind. Okay.
Okay, and let me just step on that for a minute. Carry with me for a few seconds. Can I
Go
just-
ahead on. Go ahead,
Okay.
teach.
Stupid. A woman will marry a man thinking she can change him.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. And a man will let her think that.
Mm-hmm.
Because he is manifesting with her what he wants. And that rocks on until the Aleph is recognized to be gone, and now the fire of contention begins to burn.
So I was right.
Yeah. You see? The fire of contention begins to burn.
So is that the Lilith energy in us at this point where we try to
Yeah.
control and
Yes.
to manipulate a person?
Yes.
And Eve is when we say, okay, it is what it is.
Yes.
And
Eve also means fork in the road.
yeah,
That's when you get there, because you have some women that are up in age and they still have not reached that E point.
And you're right.
And men have walked away from him, and it's like both
10 men
still
walked
ever
away.
come up. Yeah, that you just dominating, you're not complimenting, and you wonder why he's gone over there. He's found someone else that he's complimenting because you wouldn't let him compliment.
Now, the other part of it is also what we have to do is not see it as an individual, but see it as mankind. And when we began to manifest it, then it will spread exponentially to the consciousness of everyone else. Because keep in mind, the mandate was to prevail over earth consciousness, dominate the earth. Is that not what it says?
That's what it says.
Prevail over earth consciousness. So the way you prevail over earth consciousness is to infuse it with enlightenment. And when you infuse it with enlightenment, now you have something to compare it to. The reason people don't want what we get, what we teach, is because they don't have anything to compare it to. They're not used to it. And, you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So this whole idea of complimenting and prevailing, you can't prevail. He said to the Adam, prevail, didn't he?
Yeah.
So the male energy cannot prevail by alone. It takes the complement. And because of the hate that's in the energy of Isha,
Mm-hmm.
it is indicative of a higher understanding being present in the feminine than in the masculine.
We already accept that in everyday life. We just don't think we think about it much.
We don't manifest it. Because if we did, a woman would not make 81 cents to every dollar a man makes.
Agreed. But I mean, just the whole, you think about women's intuition and the
Oh,
women
yeah.
in the church.
Yeah.
And
And that's it. But we don't, if we don't recognize it for what it really is, it doesn't manifest what it really is. You know, we often talk about how, well, don't worry about it, Barbara, she gonna straighten it out for us. You know, and she does. Why? Because no matter what we say, she has an understanding that we don't necessarily have, even though we're the ones who are saying it. And she, fine-tunes it.
Right.
And brings it to a place of understanding. So what happens essentially is that the wisdom comes and the understanding is presented so that knowledge can be received. Because without understanding, there's no knowledge. It would be no difference than sitting here, talking about the words that I do understand in the Hebrew without explaining what they mean. That there's no understanding. So, having said that, we must not so much revert as desire to allow the understanding to be what it is, rather than trying to control it, manipulate it, or shape it. And when I say understanding, I'm talking about life itself. Okay? I'm talking about daily living. Okay. Any questions?
the only thing I wanted to add, and it's going back a little bit, is that the last time we talked about Eve and Lilith was more complicated than Eve got it right and Lilith got it wrong.
And in essence, Eve really didn't get it right.
No.
No, she didn't get it right. Is that Eve was another opportunity to get it right. You see? If you really, really think about it, are we still in the womb of Eden? Or in the womb of beginning? Still developing? still becoming, if you really think about it. Because no matter how we look at the scriptures, there's always an incubator there. Be it beginning, the garden, Egypt, Canaan, you see, wilderness. There is always, I'm trying to ignore it.
That's Stephanie going on.
I see how hard it is. There was always a womb involved, constantly. So, are we being reminded as we, have gone wayward that regardless of where you go, you can't escape the womb? No matter where you think you are, you're still in the womb. You can call the womb Egypt, it's still the womb. You can call it Eden, it's still the womb. You can call it beginning, it's still the womb. So if we're still in the womb, then that means that we're still being nurtured. And I do believe that we probably are still in the womb, and I'm going to tell you why I believe that.
Mm-hmm.
Because when a baby is birthed, the baby is easily taught.
Mm-hmm.
You don't necessarily have to, you don't tell a baby, the ball is red. You say the ball is red, the baby picks it up.
Yeah.
And regardless of where the baby can be born in America and be reared in China, the baby will speak Chinese. You see?
Yeah.
So having said that, then why is it we cannot speak the language of life if we've been birthed? I think we're getting to the place of being born from beginning. You must be born again, being born from beginning. So, anyway.
So, would being, would come, so do we need to come out of the womb?
You can't come out the womb at the time. The baby does not decide, I'm crawling out of here. The baby has to mature first. The last thing to mature in the baby is what? Lungs. It's his lungs. And think about it now. It's a breathing apparatus.
Yeah, that's true.
It's the breath. So when we learn how to breathe, when the breathing apparatus is formed, that's what you see what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
When we learn how to breathe. Or have the apparatus in place to breathe.
I got a lot of thinking to do.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Think about it this way. And I'm done after I say this. I got a funeral today. And then one tomorrow too, and I had one yesterday. Think about it this way. The baby in the womb, right, does not breathe. If breath is the thing that distinguishes us from being dead, still born, or being born alive, how is it that the baby is thought to be alive when it's in the womb and is not breathing?
Liberal.
Huh?
Liberal.
Liberal.
That's
Well,
what you-
now I'm saying it's living. I'm saying it's living.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm saying the baby is living.
Yeah.
But how do we determine that? And it's not breathing. Yeah, of course the heart is beating, but it's not breathing. So if it's not breathing, then the source of life must be the mother, Eve.
The mother woman.
You see?
Yeah.
The source of life has to be the mother, which is Eve. So whether you accept it or not, that's the source of life.
Yeah.
Now, when that baby is separated from that source of life, whether the umbilical cord is cut or not, that baby better breathe.
Sure is first.
God gonna die. You see what I'm talking about? The mucus plug's got to be.
Sure do.
You see?
Yeah.
So the life is derived from the mother until it is birthed. So if we have not developed the breathing apparatus, we're still deriving our life from the womb by virtue of being in the womb.
Mhm.
If we come out of the womb before developing the apparatus, we die. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So the mother is the source of life, as the Adam said.
Yeah.
The Eve is the source of all life. That is one of the reasons it is so painful when a woman have a miscarriage or a stillbirth. Because the life that's been infused into that fetus is directly connected to her life. And when that separation of that life comes from the womb, she forgets the pain of the delivery. But if it's death, then the pain of emotion sets in. Because that life was not birth. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Well, how is that with us and the Creator? Or should I use?
The difference is we have materialized baby. You know, us, we've been materialized.
Mm-hmm.
But the Creator did not materialize, and we're still spiritual. So there is no death for us like it is for this flesh.
I'm saying, how does it affect the Creator when we?
And Jesus cried, saying, O Jerusalem, how I long to gather you under my wing as a hen gather her chicks. How does he feel?
He grieves.
He grieves.
It grieves.
Yes. So.
We choose. Does a baby choose to not be birthed or to die?
Okay. I have not proven this, but I've heard it through the sages and read it for years, that the spirit chooses to enter that womb and come into the earth to accomplish a purpose.
And I agree.
And the spirit enters that womb, and the purpose may be love and kindness. And it dies in the womb or shortly after it exits the womb.
I was about to say, even in that, it still has an effect on the parents and others as well.
Yeah, so the purpose is love and kindness.
Yeah,
You
but
see?
I'm told because when a baby comes into the earth and the baby is going through all kind of problems, it's because that baby has not accepted that, it's clinging more to the spiritual than it is to the earthness consciousness. And that's why there's problems when the baby comes.
And I can see that,
Yeah.
because I can see it the other way too. The reason people die hard is because they're clinging to the material.
Yeah.
So I can see it both ways.
Yeah.
And again, I say that I cannot prove it either way, but I must speak of what I've read concerning those matters. And I believe that be it death at 1 month, or death at 1 day, or death before the birth, that loving kindness is the purpose. It's for the expression of loving kindness. I believe that kids who are born with deformed bodies are brought into the earth to force love and kindness into the earth. And I don't mean, it's a difference between love and kindness and pity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
But to bring love and kindness into the earth, I believe that. So no one is born without purpose.
Right.
And no one is still born without purpose.
It's true.
So that's where we are. Okay? Alrighty. To those of you who are watching, I hope I was not confusing. If there are questions, please submit them. And those on the phone, if you have questions, you can ask Sheldon next week. He might be able to answer. Because he's that student. Okay, I'm done.
I got food for the soul. I gotta get food for the bed.
Okay.
That volcano you get over there. Leave our hands release.
Father, we,
That wasn't me.
Father, we physically move from this place, but spiritually remain in the place where you have us, receiving enlightenment continuously. Amen.
Amen.